Have you ever wondered why certain policies get pushed through while others never see the light of day? How do major corporations and special interest groups shape the laws that govern us? The answer lies in lobbying, one of the most powerful and secretive tools in politics. Lobbyists work behind closed doors, influencing politicians, policies, and even public perception to serve their own interests. But how exactly do they do it? Let's break down the secret tactics used by political leaders and their lobbyist allies to control the narrative and steer decisions in their favor. Controlling the narrative. One of the most effective lobbying tactics is controlling the way an issue is framed in public discourse. Instead of allowing discussions on topics that could hurt their interests, lobbyists shift the conversation to something more favorable. For example, if a company faces criticism for environmental damage, its lobbyists will push media outlets to highlight the company's green initiatives or its contributions to the economy. By shifting the focus, they make sure the public sees them in a positive light while downplaying the real issue at hand. Infiltrating the media. The media is a crucial battleground for lobbyists who strategically craft messages designed to appear as if they support the public good while actually advancing their own agendas. These messages are often disguised as expert opinions, carefully curated research reports, or seemingly objective news stories, making it difficult for the average person to distinguish between genuine journalism and corporate influence. To further shape public perception, lobbyists frequently position their own analysts and spokespersons on television programs, radio shows, and in newspaper columns, giving their viewpoints an air of legitimacy. By skillfully framing their narratives, they can manipulate public discourse, making their objectives seem like common sense rather than self-serving corporate interests, ultimately swaying policies, regulations, and even election outcomes in their favor. Creating an artificial consensus. Lobbyists know that a single corporation pushing for a policy can look suspicious. That's why they engineer the appearance of widespread support. They form alliances with industry groups, fund think tanks, and even pay academics to publish research that supports their position. Suddenly, it looks like multiple independent sources are advocating for the same policy, making it seem like the logical choice rather than a carefully orchestrated move by a few powerful players. Influencing lawmakers with money and perks. Money wields immense power in politics, and lobbying firms are experts at leveraging it to their advantage. They pour vast sums into election campaigns, ensuring that politicians who align with their interests have the financial backing to stay in power. Beyond direct donations, they offer lucrative post office careers, enticing lawmakers with the promise of high-paying consulting or lobbying jobs once they leave public service. Additionally, they provide extravagant perks such as all-expense-paid trips, invitations to exclusive luxury events, and privileged access to elite social and business circles. While these actions may not always be illegal, they create an environment where politicians become increasingly beholden to wealthy interest groups, prioritizing corporate and special interests over the needs of ordinary citizens. Over time, this deep entanglement between money and policymaking erodes public trust in government and skews legislative priorities toward those who can afford to pay for influence. Using front groups and think tanks. To make their arguments more credible, lobbyists often use third-party organizations to spread their message. Think tanks, nonprofits, and advocacy groups, often funded by corporate money, publish reports, run ad campaigns, and even testify before Congress. This makes it seem like an unbiased, expert-driven movement is pushing for policy changes when, in reality, it's all orchestrated by lobbying firms. Silencing opposition. When grassroots movements or activist groups pose a threat to a lobbyist's agenda, they act swiftly and strategically to neutralize them. This can involve smear campaigns that discredit activists through misinformation, legal threats that drain their resources with lawsuits, or even co-opting influential figures by offering them lucrative deals or positions. In some cases, lobbyists go a step further by creating fake activist groups, known as astroturf organizations, that appear to be grassroots movements but are actually funded and controlled by corporate interests. These deceptive groups spread misleading narratives, confuse the public, and undermine genuine activism by making it seem like there is broad support for policies that primarily serve special interests. By manipulating public perception and silencing opposition, lobbyists maintain their influence and ensure that the policies they push remain unchallenged. Controlling regulatory agencies, lobbyists don't just influence politicians, they also target the government agencies that enforce regulations. By placing their own people in key positions within regulatory bodies, they can shape rules in ways that benefit their clients. This is known as the revolving door phenomenon, where industry executives take government jobs to weaken regulations, then return to high-paying corporate roles once their work is done. Manipulating public sentiment. A well-executed lobbying campaign can shift public opinion on almost any issue, no matter how controversial. By leveraging social media manipulation, paid influencers, and sophisticated targeted advertising, lobbyists can make even the most questionable policies seem not only acceptable but desirable. They craft emotionally compelling narratives, spread carefully curated content, and use algorithms to ensure their messages reach the right audience at the right time. Often, they employ bots and fake accounts to create the illusion of widespread public support, making their stance appear as the dominant opinion. By controlling the flow of information and limiting exposure to opposing viewpoints, lobbyists can shape public perception before meaningful opposition has a chance to gain traction, effectively steering the conversation in their favor. Buying elections indirectly. While outright bribery is illegal, lobbyists have mastered legal loopholes that allow them to flood elections with money and shape political outcomes. Through political action committees, PACs, and super PACs, they can channel millions of dollars into campaign financing without direct coordination with candidates, creating a system where money dictates political influence. Super PACs in particular can raise unlimited funds from corporations, unions, and wealthy individuals, allowing special interests to dominate the political landscape. This financial backing ensures that their preferred candidates not only gain office, but also remain loyal to their benefactors once elected. In return, these politicians push policies that favor their donors, whether through tax breaks, deregulation, or industry-friendly legislation, often at the expense of the general public. Over time, this cycle reinforces a political system where access to power is increasingly determined by financial clout rather than public interest, raising concerns about the integrity of democratic processes. Delaying and distracting. When lobbyists can't outright kill a policy that threatens their interests, they use delay tactics. They push for endless studies and reviews, tie issues up in legal battles, or create distractions by introducing competing legislation. The goal is to slow progress until public interest fades or a more favorable political climate emerges. Lobbying is often hidden from public view, yet it affects nearly every aspect of our lives, from healthcare and education to environmental policies and economic regulations. While some lobbying can be beneficial, providing lawmakers with expert insights, much of it is used to serve private interests at the expense of the public. By understanding these secret tactics, we can become more informed citizens and push for greater transparency in government. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping our world.